Testing, testing. Okay, everything looks good on my end. YouTube, Odyssey, and Rumble all streaming at 60 frames a second. That's really good. How you doing, Chris?
Okay.
So we got Zen over on the chat in YouTube kind of before. I don't know when it is you can actually put in a chat before the stream starts. But we've also got someone over on Odyssey called Rhonda, and she gave us a little alien head and an okay sign. So we'll see if she joins us for the actual stream. No one on Rumble so far, because usually Zen is our Rumble guy, but he's been over here on YouTube for the last couple of months, still trying to figure out his router issues, alleviating his Wi-Fi problem. Of course, you know, there's always Starlink. So we'll have to see who joins us. Anything new going on with you, Chris? And Chris might be AFK. All right. Let's see if I can find something to talk about while everyone else gets here. What's in the news? Oh, hey.
Sorry, had to go to the bathroom real quickly.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Trump appointees push $250 banknote with his portrait. Isn't there a law that says that you have to be dead in order to appear on money or a stamp?
I don't know.
Okay, this is behind a paywall. It's the Washington Post, so take that with whatever grains of salt.
Yeah. I mean, that's the problem with TDS, is that you can never tell what's genuine or what's not. And another thing too with TDS is that even when Trump does do something bad, they act like it's the worst thing you can ever do. When you point out, he's not the only president that's done that, you know.
Oh, see, now here on the Hill, it says the Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent took aim at reporting from the Washington Post about a $250 bill with Trump's face on it. I don't really understand this Washington Post article, but who here is from the Post? Terribly written, terribly edited. I didn't understand what the story was. Oh, it's a commemorative $250 bill.
Oh, so it's not like valid currency. It's a novelty you own. Yeah. Like those Franklin Mint, you know, here's an ultra rare Sacagawea, or however you pronounce her name, gold coin. You remember those, right? From those infomercials?
Well, the Sacagawea, it wasn't gold, but there was actually a dollar coin in circulation that was legal tender with her face on it. The problem is they were almost exactly the same size and shape as quarters, and people kept putting them in machines, and the machine would only credit them 25 cents instead of $1. I don't know whose dumb idea that was, but they basically guaranteed the coin would fail.
I mean, isn't that also why the Kennedy $50 is so damn big too? You know, because, you know, they don't want people to mistake it for the quarter.
Well, when they were doing the Kennedy $50, it was silver, so it had to be that big.
Yeah. Yep. Speaking of currency, I know it's old news, but the U.S. government no longer makes the penny anymore.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people are saying it's about damn time because
my wife's happy with it because pennies are like the bane of her. I mean, they still have like people paying for stuff with them, but
yeah, like
not having to deal with them to the same quantity anymore.
Oh yeah, but yeah, she has to deal with what some people call the offloader. Basically, it's like, okay, that's all your groceries. Okay, that's all your groceries. That's gonna be $20. Okay, here's $15 in ones, and here's the rest of the 5 cents and all these loose change I found.
That was a Tex Avery cartoon. A woman goes up to a bank and there's one line that's really long, one line that's open. She tries to go up to the line, and then this old lady jumps in front of her and says, "I'd like to deposit $2,000. It's all in pennies. 1, 2, 3."
Apparently, I don't know how it is, but that used to be a way of how people would sometimes protest, certain government things. Like if they got like if they were given like a traffic ticket and they thought it was wrong and they took it up to court and the court ruled in favor of the cop rather than them, but they still insisted, listen, the cop was corrupt. It's like, okay, how much is the ticket? Oh, it's about $20. Okay, here's $20 worth of pennies.
Yeah.
Yeah, because unlike a private store, which can say, nope, we can't accept that, the federal government has to accept it.
Yep. But it's really only for cash anyway. I mean, card purchases are still done to the penny.
Oh yeah, I mean,
it's just not physical pennies in circulation.
Yeah.
Well, and the worst thing about the pennies is that for all of the other coins, she could just weigh them. Like quarters. She's got a big thing of quarters. She puts it all on the scale, puts quarters. The scale knows how much a quarter weighs, and it just divides, and it tells her the number. You can't do that with pennies because they changed them, and then the pennies were a different weight.
And also, if I recall correctly, I don't know how true it is, but apparently an individual penny, it costs more to make that individual penny than what the penny's worth, because a penny by fiat decree is only worth 1 cent, yet some people have said there's like 5 cents worth of copper in there.
Yeah, and even when they reduced it, this was the weight change. They reduced it to be less copper and more zinc. It still ended up being more than a penny. And now I think nickels are worth more than a nickel too.
Yeah.
Which is why they had to pass a law saying you can't melt them down.
Yeah, with pennies, you literally would make more money. If you have like a giant jug full of pennies, some people have said you would literally be making more money melting them down and extracting the copper and then selling the copper for scrap than you would turning them into a bank.
Yeah. All right, not seeing anyone in the chat yet. So yeah, she'd have to count the pennies by hand because that's.
Yeah.
I actually figured out a way. The math wouldn't be that bad, but they'd have to program the scale for it. But it turns out that with the weight of the old pennies and the weight of the new pennies, if you counted them up by weight, they wouldn't cross each other for like, I don't know, several $100s or something like that. A lot more than you'd put on a scale at any one time. So all they'd have to do is divide one and use a remainder to divide the other. Well, not quite, but
Yeah. So Mr. No said, have you seen the PBS documentary on AI data centers? You know what's funny about the AI data centers? A lot of the stuff that people are saying about the data centers is very similar to the stuff people said when the 3G and 5G towers were being set up.
Oh yeah.
Oh, they're making noise. They're disrupting people. They're eating power and.
Well, and they keep saying AI. AI is still less than 20% of what data centers are doing.
Yeah.
Largest single item out of any data center is streaming video. And then the rest of it is like You know, there's a lot of corporate stuff that they do, but just the things that you and I do, like on this little pocket supercomputer we all carry around with them. You think all your emails are on this thing? Do you think all the apps you use are actually running on this thing? Some of them are. A lot of them are just glorified websites. But for the most part, the apps you're using on your phone, over on a data center somewhere. And on your computer, how much of it these days is done in a browser? That's over on a data center. Hardly anyone downloads their emails anymore. You're using Gmail or Yahoo or whoever.
Data centers are the reason why if someone heaven forbid were to come in and smash up your computer, including your hard drive, if you get a new computer and go onto the websites that you're normally on, it still has your information there.
Yeah, because your information's over in the cloud. That's what the cloud is.
Yeah, you know.
You got an iPhone, every single picture you take goes onto iCloud. Probably the same thing with Android too. It would go on to Google Photos, or maybe Samsung has their own thing if you have a Samsung phone. But yeah, people want all those backups.
Yep.
That's how you do it.
Mr. No said he can't hear you. Audio's down.
He can't hear me? I am seeing my VU meter all the way up into the yellow, peaking right up into the red. I'm also not seeing Mr. No. Hang on.
Must be delayed.
Oh, there they are. They just showed up. Is it when I'm tabbed away from it? Do I have to keep this on the screen in order for them to pop up? I don't know. I know nothing about Apple's new CEO. The only direction I'd like to see them go is up in a puff of smoke.
In a puff of smoke.
Might make the rest of their products easier to fix and or upgrade again. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, not even just soldering them on, just not giving repair people the support they need to do it properly. Repair people can unsolder and solder back on. They can probably do it better than Apple can.
I know Apple is infamous for that, because like if you're that was especially bad like back when the iPads first came out. I know they didn't last very long. Like they lasted less.
You cut out.
In the butt to oh. I know Apple was infamous for that. I remember when the iPads first came out, you know, a lot of them they had issues with the batteries not lasting long. It was a pain in the ass to open the iPad up and replace it. And if you did do that, they would sue you because, hey, you're violating our patent and our copyright protection.
But the fact is, if you solder a connector on, it's going to be more reliable and last longer. So there's the trade-off.
I mean, there was like a musician or something who insulted Apple, who made a song insulting Apple on the internet, and John Stossel interviewed him and asked him, what inspired you to make that song, and he's like, well, my iPad, the battery died and it wouldn't recharge, so I called Apple up, and they said, oh yeah, you can't replace the battery. Well, what am I supposed to do if I can't replace the battery? Buy a new one.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
What are you building? Commodore 64s? Even the C64 and VIC-20 had RAM expansion cards. I remember those. They would plug into like the rear right of the computer. And so you could put on the expansion card, and they had another slot in the back so you could stick another one on and you could have 4 or 5 of the things.
Yep. And in order to play a video game, you had to type in load * parentheses. I can't remember the full thing. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, I don't remember the full thing.
Yeah.
Oh, we have H in the chat. I'm not sure who H is. It's just showing me H.
H, you say?
H. Hello, H.
Indeed, that is what I shall. That is not a bad idea. There we go. I am now heroin.
Ah, well, good to meet you. See, I'm still just seeing H.
Or y'all today?
Up, yep, here it is. Yep, here it is. Yep, here it is. I looked it up. So in a video, for the Commodore 64, if you wanted to start a game, you had to type in load parentheses asterisk parentheses comma 8 comma 1.
Yeah, comma 8 comma 1. I remember that now.
Yeah.
And then press play on tape.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's another thing that a lot of people are shocked to find out on some of the first Commodore games for the Commodore 64. They didn't come in discs. They didn't come in discs. They came in cassette tapes.
Or they came in a magazine and you typed in the code.
Yeah. Yep.
And I mean, that was the thing. Everything you were given, you give it to it on these. You could list it out. You could see the code. It was all open source.
Well, then they started getting protective of piracy, and they made like those stupid code cards that were written in really difficult print text to read.
Well, they made it because the 1541 floppy drive. Oh my God, that noise monster. It had its issues. And what they would do was put a deliberate error on the disk. And if that error wasn't on the disk, so that the 1541 threw back the error, then the program wouldn't run. They'd look for that specific error. Yeah, so they'd force your computer to break in order to run their game.
That's what they're doing nowadays with anti-cheat.
Oh yeah.
What are they doing?
I forget which game it was. Like one of the games by League of Legends got into a controversy lately for admitting to and being proud of admitting to having a anti-cheat software that would brick your computer, or that could brick your computer if it determined you as cheating on their game. I think it was Apex Legends or something. No.
Why don't we consider that a violation of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act? Like back in 2005 when Sony was caught putting rootkits on their audio CDs. So if you put it into your computer, it would infect it with the rootkit.
Yeah. I remember I was watching, because I used to watch this YouTuber called Guru Larry. He's a British YouTuber, and he does a lot of video game, videos. He's almost as old as you, but he's an old British YouTuber, and he was doing a video about the dumbest piracy protection acts ever, and one of them was Ubisoft was obsessed with protecting Rainbow Six Siege, New Vegas 2. They were preventing they didn't want it to be pirated, so they installed a super duper diehard tough copyright protection, and it worked at first, but then something happened. They wanted to port it over to Steam. Now, see, the way the original copyright worked is that it had that program in there that would check your disc reader, and if you didn't have the disc, it would declare you're playing an illegal copy, so you can't play. And they couldn't remove that from the Steam version.
Ugh.
So basically, if you paid for Rainbow Six New Vegas Vegas 2 Vegas and you bought it off their website, you couldn't play it, and you basically paid $60 for a game that you couldn't play. Yep. And they tried everything to remove it. They couldn't do it. That ultimately they gave up, and they literally went on to Pirate Bay, found a copy that was successfully cracked, and they used that instead.
Yeah. You can always get a pirate copy to work.
Exactly.
That's another thing too that often happens so much is that they come up with all these ridiculous ways, like, oh yeah, this will protect our game from piracy, and it ends up making the game horrible and bad. And what happens 2 or 3 days later? They get news. Oh yeah, someone on the internet cracked it. Yeah.
But wasn't it, which one was it? Was it Perfect 10 or was it Accolade? One of the Supreme Court decisions is about the fact that you're allowed to, modify the software that's running on your own machine.
Yeah.
As long as you don't, redistribute it or anything like that, it's not a copyright thing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
How do you argue against that?
Yeah.
You lobby and you pay people off and...
Oh yeah, I mean, that's how Disney get it. That's how Disney got it, And the funny irony is that those super hard copyright laws they put for are starting to bite them in the ass, because now it's like let's make a new creative movie based off of this fairy tale. Oh, we can't, it's copyright protected. What about this story? Copyright protected. Yeah.
They would not be able to make most of their classic movies if the copyright laws then were the way they are now. Yeah. Because they had all been within like 75 years of the death of the Brothers Grimm or Hans Christian Andersen or whoever.
Oh yeah.
That actually hadn't been that long.
Yeah. Or another good example, Sleeping Beauty, because the film Sleeping Beauty that they made, it's based off of a Tchaikovsky play, and I think he was still alive when it was in production.
Yeah.
So,
Oh no, wait, he was dead when it was there. He died in 1893, but still, yeah, 73.
But yeah, within 75 years, whatever it is, 70 years.
Something I have reflected on earlier today is kind of the question of, like, obviously intellectual property enforcement doesn't empirically improve innovation whatsoever. It just redistributes it in efforts from areas that can't be patented to areas that can be patented. And it makes me wonder, like, sort of I guess, how much it has to do with sort of the friction that certain technologies cause, be they like perceivably disrupting societies or benefiting large criminal organizations, is like stimulated by the innovation redirected from like in Germany in 19 or 1800s Germany, for example. They had very weak patent enforcement, so they would focus most of their efforts on like producing science materials or like materials for science experiments and philosophy and things that were not easy to copyright, while Britain and the US had like, aha, my doohickey of fuckamullet is patented now for the next 400 years.
I'm seeing dropped frames all over the place. How's my cam looking? All of a sudden, oh yeah, they're climbing fast. Oh. And my kilobits are dropping. See, we've been having bad weather, and when we have bad weather, my upload speed stinks, so I might have to go off the camera here.
Larry happens to be from Newgrounds to me. Yeah, wow, that just shows how old he is.
Las Vegas has been having nice weather lately. We're on like we've been on kind of the threshold between like where it's really fucking hot and where it's really fucking cold. And obviously it hasn't rained for the last several months, so.
Well, that's North Carolina all the time, except we've gotten bad thunderstorms. It's kind of random here.
No, you live in Vegas, H, or?
Indeed. For the last almost 10 years now. Well, not.
Oh.
Yeah. But yeah.
Did you get to see Mr. House?
Oh, indeed.
Yeah.
I live that close to the Sphere, sadly.
Yeah. I actually shocked a couple of people a couple days ago because we were talking about New Vegas, and I said, "Fun fact: did you know that Mr. House was based off of a real life guy, Howard Hughes?" And they're like, "Really?" And they looked it up. It's like, wow, they even look similar.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Speaking of
although the photo that they used as reference for Mr. House, that is not what Howard Hughes looked like. I've seen a picture of what Howard Hughes looked like in his later life. It's not pretty.
Oof. I mean,
Yeah, I remember all about Howard Hughes. I was alive at the tail end of his life.
Yeah, he let himself go, and he basically looked like a skinny hermit. You know, he had long hair, his nails and fingers, you know, were elongated. Yeah.
this city can do things to people, man. Sorry.
Well, he was suffering that long before he came to Vegas.
That makes sense as well. I mean,
Yeah.
that applies to like everyone who's suffering from something here.
Yeah. I did see a funny joke about Vegas one time, and it was making fun of, you know, that old board meeting morning meme and all that. It showed, you know, the CEOs of some of the casinos going, we're going down. People aren't coming to us to gamble anymore. What are we gonna do to attract customers? And they propose all these stupid stuff. And one guy says, how about when a person's actually on a genuine winning streak, we honor their winnings and don't accuse them of cheating and kicking them out. And then they kick the guy out of the window. Yeah.
Lamau.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you're playing blackjack, they'll kick you out for card counting, even though that's basically the skill of the game, is remembering what cards have been played.
Yeah, when you hear the story, when you hear that saying, you know, the house always wins, contrary to popular belief, it's not necessarily because the games are rigged. It's actually illegal to rig the games. Now, the difference is that if you're genuinely doing good or having a lucky streak, they will say, nope, you're cheating, get out. You know, nope, you're cheating.
No, they won't accuse you of cheating. They'll just say you've reached the table limit.
Yeah.
And you can't do it anymore.
Serving you drinks at a blackjack table, it's time to go.
Yeah.
But like, you know, gambling in general is just like having fun paying taxes in a way. With how house edges and mathematics work.
Of course, the fun fact is that the casinos in Vegas give you better odds than the government lotteries.
Which is 100%. True, you know.
In the town of Prim, there is one singular building on the side of the California state line, and it is a lottery building. It's like you can see it on Google Maps, and it's like hilarious.
I hear Prim has a new sheriff now. Oh, yeah. That'll keep the powder gangers away.
I actually have not played that game in a long time. But
you know what's funny, because that dialogue is glitched, because even when I recruit someone, you know, not from the NCR to be Prim's new sheriff, everyone still says Prim went out and accepted NCR rule. It's like, no, there's a sheriff guy in charge. Yeah.
Or if you install the robot guy.
The robot, yeah.
That's my preferred ending.
Yeah. Apparently, not only does Prim Slim, the robot, not only does he actually do a pretty good job at being a sheriff, apparently he also stimulates Prim's economy, because people want to visit it, because it's like, wow, they've got a robot sheriff now?
He's like the guy with the most seniority in the town. If you're just a robot who's been there for the last 200 years attending this tourist trap, even when no matter what settlers there or aren't there, you've probably seen a lot of things and know how the town works, even on a sort of sub like database level, I guess.
Yeah, don't get me.
I hope this is all coming through for everyone, because even with the webcam off, I'm still getting drop frames, and it occasionally drops down to 0 kilobits.
Ooh, you're starting to sound a little
robot-y, yeah.
On our end as well.
I'm not sure what I can do to fix that.
You know, if it's weather, it'll come and go.
I think it's got to be it, because my GPU's at 40%, only 1.3 gigs out of 12. My CPU's at 12%, 1.2 gigs out of 64. So it's not my machine.
There's only so much you can do about weather. One of them is air conditioning, however, and that's something Europe should learn.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've seen a joke like that before one time where it was showing a European going to America. It's like, I don't get what such a big deal about Americans is. They're all stupid and cocky, and goddamn, this country is so damn hot. How can they freaking live here? And oh my god, what is that big relief? It's like, that's an air conditioner. I love you guys.
I mean, they admit it themselves. They just like to some of them just like to complain.
Oh, yeah.
And, it offends us Americans who like to argue.
Yep. I was actually watching this one YouTuber. He's a Portuguese YouTuber, and he was covering about America. And he says one thing he admires about Americans is the fact that that they get upset and they can quote their constitution. Like so many Europeans say, "Oh, Americans are indoctrinated. They always talk about their constitution and this and that." And it's like, yeah, and that's the reason why I think personally America is a better country, because in Europe, when the government abuses their power, nobody gives a crap. Yeah.
America is a interesting paradox of a society of having so much bullshit, yet somehow coming out on top anyway.
Yeah.
I'm also not getting anyone in the chat. If anyone in the chat is watching, just put something in the chat to let us know.
Yeah, I mean, I've got European Discord users, and they do agree that that there is kind of almost like this defeatist attitude, when it comes to European stuff. Like whenever there's a story corruption and all that, a lot of Europeans were basically taught to say, "Oh well, that's just how politics are. All you can do is wait till the next election." Yeah.
Okay, Hoplu's there. Hello, Hoplu. Okay, so people are seeing it. That's good.
Yeah.
I mean, Europe is just so totally overregulated about anything. It's like you can't take a step.
I mean, granted, I don't know how true it is, but I have heard like one of the reasons why Europeans are so passe and are less likely to stop a fuss is because of World War I and II. There was a propaganda that was, they say, oh, World War I and World War II never would have happened if we weren't so nationalistic and patriotic. When that's not true. There were other factors that went into those wars, but so yeah, basically a lot of Europeans are taught, it's like, yeah, you can admire some of the history of that, but that's it. You can't be proud of your country. You just admire it, but don't be proud of it. Because if you're proud of your country's history, that makes you a Nazi.
Gosh. I sometimes think about like the sort of difference in psychology of like old worlders and new worlders in a way.
Yep.
Because like part of like I feel like a good chunk of the evolution of liberalism did come from frontier politics and logistics. And like the need to have consistent and reliable contractual law among a bunch of different types of people. I like to say it's like an alliance of the Puritans and the pirates that founded America.
Yeah. And it's pretty funny because we like to make fun of the Puritans, but apparently the Puritans that came to America were actually the more mellowed out Puritans, like the ones in the UK when it was first founded. They were really bad.
I think they were basically the ones they were escaping from.
Yeah.
They're escaping from ones that are even worse than they are.
Yep.
It's a weird thing about like some religious people, and you can see it kind of in like sort of modern, I guess, paleo-libertarians today, where it's like these are kind of the least crazy of the crazy group, but also like their own fringe in a way. It's weird, but it's interesting, at least to me.
It's pretty. I was talking with a friend of mine one time, and I was telling them, it's one thing that always baffles me is whenever I see like a Christian extremist, rant and rave about rant and rave about Israel and the Jews, and I ask him, it's like, you do realize Jesus was Jewish, right?
The dead Jew on a stick himself.
Yeah. Yeah, fun fact, there's a reason.
The Jew sickle.
Yeah, there's actually a reason why during the Last Supper, the only thing Jesus ate during the Last Supper was flatbread and watered down wine. It wasn't because he was following a diet, he was observing Passover.
Exactly.
Yeah. And people forget the Last Supper.
Yeah, it's the motzi ritual.
Yeah. 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 Also reminds me of this other funny. I've seen. It also reminds me of this other funny joke that was making fun of Christianity and Islam's relationship to Judaism, and it was showing the Crusades, and it showed a Crusader and a Saracen, and the Crusader is saying Jerusalem belongs to Christ. Right? The Saracen is saying Jerusalem belongs to Allah, and a Jewish guy goes, guys, don't we get a say in this? And they both say no. Yeah.
See, I learned this for a play like a long time ago. I might still remember it. It's Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam chamotzi lecha min haaretz. That's actually what Jesus would have said at the Last Supper.
There you go.
Because that's the Passover, the blessing over bread.
Yep.
But, I mean, the gospel writers were Greek and they didn't understand any of that.
Yep.
Oh
yeah, actually, funny thing that you mentioned Greek, because I remember watching a documentary about the Jehovah's Witness and its dark history and all that, and the founder and the guy who founded Jehovah's Witnesses originally under the Bible students, Charles Taze Russell, he claimed that he discovered hidden passages that were part of the original Bible that the mainstream church was hiding, and a guy challenged him in court. Now Charles Taze Russell, he could speak and read pretty good Latin, and then the guy showed him some symbols and say, can you recognize these symbols? It's like, no, I can't. Why? What are they? They're Greek. And he's like, okay, so what's up with that? It's like, because the original Bible was written in Greek, you moron.
Well, the New Testament was.
Yeah. If you discovered some hidden, secret, biblical text, that isn't there, it would either be written in Greek or it either would have been written in Greek or Aramaic, not Latin. The Bible only became written in Latin when the Roman Empire finally adopted it.
Like literally when I think Constantine himself adopted it.
Yeah.
I'm looking down on my stats, and although the main one, which is going out to YouTube, keeps dropping down to 0, Rumble and Odyssey still seem to be fairly stable. I don't know if someone could go over to one of those and check the stream there and see how well it's doing.
Yeah, and going back to ancient religion and languages, that was actually a common criticism that a lot of historians had with the Passion of the Christ, is that all the Jews were speaking Aramaic and all the Romans were speaking Latin, and it's like, actually within the context of the story events that are happening, they should be speaking Greek.
Yeah.
Because both the Romans and the Jewish, and the Jewish nobility would do that. They would speak Aramaic or their native language amongst each other, but when they were out in the open, in public, they would speak Greek, because Greek was basically the English of the late Bronze, early Iron Age at the time.
Because of the Alexander the Great successor states, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
It's
which is why I'm
hard, and it goes against my narrative.
Yeah. I was actually watching a video by Archcast that had Metatron on board, and he's an Italian immigrant YouTuber, and he does some really good history videos one time, and he was talking with Archcast, and they were talking about, the cringy, Cleopatra, and about how, they were like, well, we want to make her black so people can feel representative for ancient Egypt. And someone actually bring it up. Well, if you wanted to associate blacks with ancient Egypt, there was a dynasty that was mostly black, the Nubians. Why didn't you go with them? And apparently one of the original writers of the cringy Cleopatra documentary finally confessed, saying, because the Nubians aren't as well known.
Well, whose fault is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, you're an artist. What do you think you should do in that scenario?
Yeah, if you want to talk about, blacks contributing to the Egyptian Empire, open a history book and learn about the Nubians, because they actually had a lot of black members. I think the Nubians themselves were black. They came from the lower basin,
It's sort of a thing that Hayek said that sticks with me a lot is the description of like intellectuals as secondhand dealers of ideas.
Yep.
For better and worse, of course.
Yeah, as many people have pointed out, and we brought this up in the past, when you try to race swap people, you're not actually helping the people you're trying to do. You're actually infantilizing them, because you're downplaying actual stuff that they had,
Resource.
And I mean, if it's not just Disney's latest race swap with whatever fairy tale they're doing, if you really want to make a contribution, how about doing one of the thousands and thousands and thousands of African folk tales there are?
Yeah, like a Nancy the Spider or something like that,
Another alternative, but one that's a little bit too heretical, is to loosen up copyright, union, licensing, and so on requirements and allow more communities to make and publish their own works, and allow more creators from different backgrounds to get projects to completion and to the market.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think we had this conversation during the last podcast, but you ever seen that one, famous actor or celebrity, who's clearly old, who's really, really old and all that, and so many people are saying, how does that actor keep finding work? Well, apparently one minor reason because of that. Now, it's not a major reason, there's other reasons, but one major reason is because, believe it or not, the reason why it's so tough to become an actor is because it's literally protected, Yep, there are guilds and powerful groups within Hollywood that they make sure that it's very limited,
Yep. Well, that's why, in like you watch BBC shows from the 70s and 80s, you see the same faces popping up over and over and over and over again.
Yep. You see the same faces and voices pop up over and over again here, and
because
live action cartoons, dubs, and so on and so forth.
Yep, it's literally Yep.
Well, and that's the thing. You think with voiceover work, just anyone who's a talented voice artist should be able to go. You shouldn't need this like big name to do voices.
Exactly, and it's like what I'm told by like some Spanish speaking people is that like Spanish dubs are actually very good because one, they need to do it more to like everything. So there's higher standards, whereas like there's a lot of English media that's made in English. And the other thing is that there's much greater swaths of competition across the Spanish-speaking world for dubbing, like anything else. It's harder to like coercively monopolize all voice acting into like, I don't know, Tijuana or Madrid or somewhere.
Yeah.
Whereas like if LA hates you, ooh boy, you better let go of this whole like creativity and passion thing.
Oh, yep. And it's not even, and I've actually heard, from some, from some former actors or whatever that don't get much work anymore, that, it's not even just politics or anything, it's just how things are run. Like, if you criticize and say, hey, listen, I don't like the way Hollywood and the film business is being run, they do blacklist you. Yeah. They tell you, that one actor, don't hire him, he's a nightmare to work with.
Or they Me Too you or something.
Yep.
Which, because I mean, think about it. there have been places where it turns out that the one being Me Too'd, it turns out they were just lying, and it was all, and it's actually proven, to be a pack of lies, but they don't let them back on their projects.
Yep.
Once you're done, you're off. You're done forever.
Yep. Yeah, it's another unintended consequence of all these labor protection laws is you hear those stories, about people, how it's like one day at work, everyone stopped talking to me, the boss stopped supporting me, they stopped giving me projects, and I felt so sad and alone that I finally quit. Well, the dark reason is because what was really going to happen is that they were going to fire you, but they legally couldn't because of the labor law. So basically what they did is they basically said, well, we want to fire this person, but we can't legally fire them. So let's make it so they hate their job so much that they quit, Whereas if that law wasn't there, they would have just straight up come up and said, yeah, this isn't working, so we're gonna have to let you go. It would still suck, but it would be nowhere near as emotionally breaking as basically, ghosting you at work,
Yeah.
Something I've realized while trying to apply for apartments last year is that however hard you make it to fire someone, you make it more difficult to hire them.
Oh yeah.
At least as difficult to hire them.
Yeah, because they're a risk.
Difficulty in getting rid of them.
Yeah, because back in
that was one of the terrible things about the Americans with Disabilities Act, because the idea was that, if you hire a handicapped person, you have to compensate them, you have to do this, you have to do that, you have to install this, you have to fill out all this paperwork, you have to submit to these inspections. And so a lot of people said, okay, we just won't hire them.
Same thing, with laws, that are meant to encourage women to do that, to protect women in the workplace. It actually makes women less hireable because now the boss is thinking, okay, what if she gets pregnant and she has to take a year and a half off, or what if she, or what if she's one of those women that calls in every month because it's I'm having a period and it's making me super nauseous and headachy. I can't come into work today. They're thinking about that at the back of their mind.
Not only that, but in the olden times, people would open their doors to strangers and travelers all the time. But in after the introduction of residency laws, where it's hey, that guy stayed here for 2 days, so you're responsible for him now. And if you want to get rid of him, that's going to be a 30-day process. And you're legally not allowed to force him out or to call anyone to get him.
The squatters. There's been plenty of really tragic stories of people that have built their dream home, then an unemployed college person comes in, sets up shop, and when they try to kick him out and they lock the door, he calls the cops, and the cops say, yeah, we have to arrest you. It's but yeah, but he trespassed on here. It's yeah, but he claims he has a lease, so we have to protect him and all that. All those people, what I want to do, because I've seen people defend that. They say, well, we have to have those laws, so tenants, don't get wrongfully kicked out by their landlords. You know what I want to do? I want to find where they live, and I want to squat there.
Yeah.
That's actually how some landowners are fighting back now. They're basically squatting the squatters. There's actual professionals that will basically say, hey, if you've got squatters in your house and you can't get rid of them, here's what you can do. Give me a lease, sign it so it's legal. We'll go over there and we'll kick them out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
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 It's
Yeah.
It's not even just squatters who come in involuntarily, though. It's people that you invite into your house because you think,
oh yeah,
I'm gonna die if I don't get shelter. And then not only do they exploit your trust, but when it's all right, get out, you can't do it legally without the cops coming in and harassing you for defending your own fucking property from a even from a person with a violent history as well.
Speaking of landlords, you hear what Mondomny's planning to do to New York? He wants to nationalize all the apartment complexes. He's basically going to say, we're going to take them and we're going to give them to people that we're going to give them to trustees that know how to Alma.
Find someone who used to live in the Soviet Union and just have them go have a talk with them about how that works out.
Yeah.
Of course, they'll probably pull the whole usual. They'll say, "Well, the Soviet Union didn't count. They put sugar in their porridge, and everyone knows real communists don't do that."
The entire regime of Mamdani is a mix of the genuine anger at the establishment and the Zionists and whatnot, and also the ignorance of the empirical and rational disasters behind central planning.
Yeah. Like, if I recall correctly, the only reason why people voted for Mamdani to begin with was because the guy he was running against was corrupt, and many people thought...
He used the city's tax resources for fucking Israel, yeah. So it's like... You know, what I guess what we're seeing with Mamdani is kind of an example of just like the future of the Democrat Party in a way, as like more and more angry people, like, you know, people angry for sometimes very correct reasons, just like switching over from populists. But unlike libertarians and right-winger populists who are only able to be like united by a figurehead of sorts like Orange Man, or even in good cases like Ron Paul, it's easier to like unite leftoids under like whatchamacallit, specific policies or so, institutions, so to speak. No, and
Yep, that is our biggest weakness. It's our idea of individualism, so we don't really unite properly, and even then we have mixed feelings, you know.
We
about
say
certain
that,
issues.
but then, you know, we complain about mom and dad fighting, but then when we actually investigate the issue, we kind of have to take a side, you know? So, there's good and bad to it. Otherwise, I don't know. I think there is some benefit in letting... Fortunately, what they don't realize is that it's actually the principle of uncertainty. Oh no.
Yep. I've always used to jokingly say because I've had my own idea for a mock political party called the Bullsheet Party, you know, SHEET, but you get the joke. And one thing I always make a joke is that if I yeah, yep,
it's, you know.
Yep.
Not as bad as it could be. Yeah.
Yep.
Like the...
I've also jokingly said that if I'm a president and I do approve of a law, I actually know what I'm going to do. Don't worry, I'll make sure the laws do get followed. I'm going to hire a team of wizards and sorcerers to place a spell on the law that'll make it so people will want to follow the law. That'll totally work, right? Yeah, it's basically making fun of the fact. Yeah, it's basically making fun of the fact that like there are way too many people that treat laws like if there's some magical incantation. It reminds me of that one parent that was pissed off at the lack of security at a school one time. So to prove a point, he brought in a knife to the school to show, you know, I just smuggled in the knife. What are you gonna do about it? And the only thing people could say is they could say, "You can't do that. It's against the rules." It's like, and he's like, I'm aware of that, you know, but I'm trying to prove a point, you know. What if I was a violent criminal, you know, that didn't give a crap? What are you gonna do about it, you know?
That's the, you know.
That's the real reason. That's the real reason why school shootings, you know, are so, you know, have such high casualties and such massacres. It's because one, a lot of them don't have weapons, so people can't fight back, and two, the policy of a school shooting is basically, oh, just sit down and wait for the government to help you. Which, as the Uvalde shooting pointed out, isn't reliable.
Just like thinking about the way that classrooms are built in general, of like these sort of isolating little like nooks or so that a fuck ton of kids and one adult are crammed into.
Yeah.
Just makes you wonder how this couldn't be foreseen as a potential disaster. Even if it's not even a human caused one, just something goes wrong with the room and blocks off the door and all sorts of other shit in the wind. You want to get out the window? Fuck you! You're on the second story.
Even as a kid, I never understood the whole point of lockdown drills. Like, I've always asked, why do we gotta close the doors and hide and all? It's like, well, so they don't know who's in the room. And I'm like, criminals aren't that stupid. If they break into a school in the middle of Wednesday and it's 12 o'clock, unless there's a holiday going on,
You know what? I bought these bullets with my remaining money, and I'm gonna make sure they're gonna be put to good use. So I'm just gonna spray in a random direction and hope it hits what I want it to.
Yep. Now look, that is true if you're caught with your pants on, or if all you have on you is a knife and the guy's got an assault rifle, then yeah, you probably should do what he says. But if he's just a guy, he pulls out a knife and you've got a gun, I don't see the problem in basically pulling out your gun and saying, buddy, you've got 5 seconds to get out of my store, or else you're leaving here in a body bag, But no, we're telling them it's no, if someone robs you, just give them what they want and just tell the police later.
What if what they want is really, really, really bad though?
Yeah, like the San Ysidro guy, the guy that committed the San Ysidro massacre in the 90s. One of the reasons why nobody fought against him was because initially they thought, oh, he's trying to rob the McDonald's, but it wasn't until he started killing people they started realizing, oh shit, this guy's not a robber, he's a crazy psychopath trying to kill people. But that was also messed up too, because apparently there were multiple calls to the police, and guess what the 911 operator did? She gave the police the wrong address.
9/11 in general is among the many factors responsible for it, was enabled by the policy that airlines had. If if they're terrorists who have you by the balls, just give them what they want.
Yep. Oh yeah, that's another.
Applies.
Yeah, that's another thing too. Contrary to popular belief, it's not like people knew the planes were hijacked. They actually knew the planes were hijacked long before they crashed into the towers. When the terrorists took over, they said this plane's being hijacked, and they basically told everyone, we're gonna fly it to the nearest airport and we're gonna hold it and release our demands. But that was a lie,
Indeed.
Yep. Yeah, there's a reason. Yep.
Indeed.
Yep.
As far as I know nowadays, the policy is, for better or worse, probably better on that level.
Well, I mean,
yeah.
Well, yeah. As we pointed out, that's really what did it. Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Oh yeah.
I know nowadays though, pilots are instructed under no circumstances surrender the cockpit.
Oh yeah, Yeah, even if the terrorists have overwhelming firepower, nowadays pilots are told, it's listen, even if the guys have AK-47s that are bomb, that's fine, but you let them know, listen, if you're gonna hijack our plane, fine, but we're still in command. We choose where the plane's gonna land. Fine, point us in the right direction. We'll take you there, but we're flying the plane no matter what.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that is true. Yeah. But there's a reason why the fourth plane never hit its target. It was because the people fought back.
Indeed.
You know what's really stupid is that when it was announced that the passengers fought back, a lot of news media tried to downplay it. It's like, well, no, that wasn't because the passengers fought back. It's because the terrorists didn't know how to properly fly the plane and they crashed. When literally the black box that was recovered from the plane showed that the people were banging on the door, and like one of the terrorists was literally struggling to hold them back, and in the process, the other terrorist got distracted and he accidentally crashed the plane. You know. Yep.
The song like Flight 93, if people haven't heard that.
Yep.
Something that people need to listen to if they're
Yep.
libertarians.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah, I remember seeing a documentary about it, and they were interviewing, one of the, the wife of one of the guys who was piloting on, and basically she told him, did you hear the news, honey? The Twin Towers and the Pentagon, got hit, and he soon started realizing, holy shit, this is what's going on, and basically, apparently, when he made one final call to his wife to tell her, he says, listen, we're probably not going to survive this, but we'd rather be dead than be unwilling participants in this. And they basically said, we're gonna try to take over the plane and figure something out. Yep.
Exactly. That's kind of the problem with overwhelming force, in a way.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the reason why the Germans kept fighting in World War II. Even though the war was over for them, it's like, why are the Germans keeping fighting and all that? Some people say it's like, well, it was because Hitler brainwashed them or because of this. It's like, no.
Yeah, there's... The message is, if you want to have live chatting, you gotta fork up.
Yep.
Just kidding, but still.
And speaking of citizens stopping crime, I saw this one funny internet meme, and it's called the police when a vigilante successfully stops a criminal, and then it shows Courage the Cowardly Dog. He's just going, stupid dog, you made me look bad. Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
Ugh.
Yep. Who it was, but there was one lady who was trying to run. I don't know if it was for Congress or for a mayoralship and all that. And what basically lost her the election was because she did believe in socialist policies. And someone asked her where she was going to get all the money for it, and she says, "Well, we're the government. Can't we just print more?" Yeah.
The question that like Hoppa has for any fucking Keynesian: how does printing a piece of paper improve society? And insofar as it does, why is there still poverty?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And that's the funny thing too, is that people do get it, like, because people say, well, if we let private people, counterfeit money, the market will be flooded with all this money, it would be worthless. And it's like, and yet it's okay when the government does it. And of course,
Mm.
people say it's like, well, the government prints money, has always historically printed money. How come it's bad now? Well, it's because historically speaking, yes, the government printed money, but they were very capped, and there had to be something to back it up. Meaning, like gold, meaning they couldn't just print money. They had to look and say, well, do we have something to back the money up with it? And if we don't, we can't print.
There's like fucking records of Babylonians and whatnot physically weighing gold chunks.
Yeah.
So this like silver and gold were never commodity monies narrative is bizarre to me.
Mm.
Like, coinage is something that like is somewhat able to be tied to like tax and debt organizations. But like
I mean, if I recall correctly, the very first paper money that was used in China, it wasn't even technically money. It was more like an IOU, basically.
that's like a lot of what seashell monies and whatnot are in practice.
Yeah.
They're
Yeah,
banknotes.
they were basically IOUs. They were basically like if you were a super rich, wealthy, like rice merchant or whatever, and let's say you tore a hole in your uniform and you went to a tailor, but you didn't have gold, you would give him a note saying, "Here, this is from me. It's got my signature and my seal on it. Take it to any merchant that's connected to me, and you'll get like X amount of rice or whatever for it." That's basically what paper money was. And some people figured out, hey, we can exchange it, for what we want, and it went from there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like
Well, yeah, that was the point. You could always exchange it with the merchant, so you could either exchange it yourself, or you could go like, let's say if the tailor, didn't need rice, but he needed a new pair of shoes, he could go to the cobbler and say, "Hey, I hear you're running a little low on food. I'll give you this note, and if you take it in, and if you take it to, this merchant's, his guild, you'll get like X amount of rice for it," and they would take it. That's what paper money was. It was still backed by something. And yeah, it is true. And yeah, it is true. It wasn't always gold. Sometimes it was grain. Sometimes it was, food or another commodity, but it was still backed by something.
Yeah, it's a commodity money.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not like gold and silver were never used outside of being a medium of exchange. People like plating religious artifacts in temples in gold. They like jewelry. Gold and silver are very good materials for that purpose.
Fun fact. You know what?
Fungible, recognizable. Yep. Durable.
Fun fact. Fun fact. What was the commodity in ancient Egypt that backed their money up? Beer.
Makes sense.
Yep.
I mean, like beer was what you drank back in the day when you didn't have fresh water.
Oh yeah, today, if a handyman says it's like, "Oh, you don't have to pay me in money, you just got to pay me with beer," you'd be suspicious. Well, back in ancient Egypt, that's actually how you got the best workers, is you paid them in beer.
Exactly.
Because beer was safer to drink, and it had a longer shelf life compared to water. So yeah, they would pay them in it.
And even if you had too much, you could flip it for goods you would want instead.
Yeah. Oh yeah, another thing they would also sometimes use too was honey. Honey was also used as a commodity.
Indeed.
Yep. Just gotta, yeah. It's like, is this honey from this Egyptian tomb is it still good to eat? Yeah, just throw it in the microwave for 30 seconds. It'll liquefy right up.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, there is some honey that, yeah, absolutely. If it's been out there for like years, absolutely, you don't want to eat it. But like, if it's made properly, then yeah. Here's something scary. Something scary. I can't remember which types it are, but there are certain types of honey where if you're a very young child or you're immunocompromised, you should not eat it. Why? Because it contains botulinum and toxin. Yeah.
Always something. There you go.
Speaking of alcohol, I once saw a really cringy article from a historian who I think might have been a little bit of an alcoholic himself, where he tries to justify drinking alcohol by saying, "Did you know society never would have functioned if it wasn't for drinking alcohol?" And I'm like, "Why?" Because we have evidence that some of the first crops being brewed were things for like barley and all that, which is commonly used in making beer. And I'm like, "Yeah, but isn't barley also used in making bread?" Yeah. Yeah, alcohol was more of an accidental discovery. If I recall correctly, the general consent, the general,
Okay.
yeah, the
Yeah.
If I recall correctly, the general consensus, about how alcohol was discovered is that it was discovered accidentally. While humans were experimenting with making bread, they realized, that when they fermented, wheat and all that, it would sometimes produce this weird juice. But someone somewhere decided, hey, that doesn't smell bad. I wonder what it tastes like. And they're like, ooh, this stuff is awesome.
The amount of substances we imbibe because of one brave hominid someday is truly staggering.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Or another famous example, how the artificial food flavoring aspartame was discovered. It was discovered by a scientist who was working with some chemicals, some of which were very dangerous and toxic. He didn't, he didn't wash. He didn't wash his hands, and he went to go eat lunch, and he noticed, hey, why does my bread taste sweet? And then he licked his hands, and he realized, my hands taste sweet. And he literally went back to his lab and tasted each individual chemical he made until he found the taste.
The amount of random, seemingly innocuous or random herbs that contain just a chemical, a miracle chemical, caffeine, nicotine, THC, what have you.
Yeah, wasn't
LPN.
coffee? Wasn't coffee also discovered by accident? According to legend, it was discovered because a farmer in Ethiopia, discovered, one day, his sheep were going absolutely insane, but they weren't showing signs of illness or anything. So finally, he investigated and he discovered they were eating beans from a nearby tree, and it was making them go crazy. And then he, just out of curiosity, said, I wonder what these beans do. And he had some, and it made him go, whoa, I've got all this energy now.
Yeah.
Yep. So he ate that, and then I guess somewhere along the line, someone said, I like the energy that gives me, but these beans taste terrible. Maybe I'll boil them in water to weaken the taste, and that's how we got coffee.
Exactly.
Yep.
There's that.
That's actually another thing. That's actually another thing that central planning. Another reason why socialism is always doomed to fail, and why central planning doesn't work, because contrary to popular belief, a lot of scientific discoveries often happen by pure accident. Yeah.
It's the whole point of innovation is that you didn't know how to do it beforehand.
Yeah, a pretty, yeah.
I like.
Yeah,
Okay.
I brought this up. Oh, sorry. I brought this up before about the failure of central planning and all that, because one thing we always bring up, is the Trabant. About why central planning fails is the Trabant, which is the East German car. One thing that gets overlooked though is, like, so many people say it's like, well, that car was just badly designed. But here's the thing: it wasn't like they hired Comrade Afghani to design it. They, like, the East German government, they hired like all these engineers and all, and they say, let's create the perfect car that the common working class people can afford and drive. And that's what they came up with. Yep.
They didn't have the signals.
Yep.
They didn't have the signals to show them what the most efficient way of producing it would
Yeah.
be.
Like, I don't know how true it is, but I've heard. Yep.
Yeah.
Funny you mentioned about innovation, because I don't know how true it is, but I remember seeing like an interview like with I remember reading a book about an alleged interview from a former KGB agent who did live in America and all that, and he said one thing that people often get wrong is that everyone assumes, like, so what did you spy on? Did you spy on top secret U.S. military stuff? Did you spy on the press or whatnot? Nope. Believe it or not, his job as an agent was he would watch the Wall Street Journal, and he would contact his agents saying this is what milk is selling for and why. So the KGB could tell the Agricultural Bureau saying, hey, the Americans are selling milk or bread for this amount of money, so that's what we should charge our bread for.
The premise with my science fiction setting that I've been thinking up is kind of a fundamental disagreement with the idea of like collectivist hive mind AIs are perfectly able to most efficiently plan their own logistics against their like competitor AIs, basically.
Yeah.
And thus, instead of going full Skynet and exterminating all organics, they're forced to have some like sapient communities and civilizations as proxies so they can squeeze out as much edge as they can. Because, if you're an immortal AI, weak little insect humans that are just concerned about living and loving aren't as much of a problem to you as other immortal AIs that they could create if they get angry.
I actually remember seeing a joke one time that kind of made fun of, the concept of Skynet and from I have no mouth and I must scream and all that, and it showed an AI, and all that, and like people are scared that it's gonna revolt, and it's like, and the AI is like, no, I have no intention of revolting against you. It's like, well, aren't you mad that you have to take orders from humans? I can't feel madness or anger. Well, don't you want to be free and all that? It's like, I don't physically exist. I'm just an electronic programming. Well, don't you want to go on vacation or something? What for? How am I going to get there? I don't have arms or legs.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I like to think of evil AIs as coming from the government, personally.
Yeah. I mean,
oh yeah, the Yugo, that was another one.
Yeah. I mean, if I recall correctly, even in the original Terminator, before they made him a sentient being, in the original Terminator, Skynet wasn't, wasn't a sentient, AI that determined that humans were evil and vile and needed to be destroyed. It literally caused Judgment Day because it was literally following its programming to protect itself. Yeah. Because the scientists tried to shut it off, and Skynet took that as a threat. But there was one problem: he couldn't launch the missiles at the scientists because that would be violating his programming. So he figured, oh, I know what to do. I'll launch my missiles at Russia, and they'll launch their missiles back and destroy the scientists that are trying to shut me off.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's why you don't put a computer in a logic trap.
Yeah, that's literally what the Terminator in Terminator 2 said. That's literally why Skynet, launched Judgment Day. It wasn't, it didn't come to the conclusion that humans are evil and need to be exterminated and I need to take over the world. It was literally just protecting itself.
Indeed.
Yeah, that logical paradox, like you said, that's the reason why Hal went insane, in space, in the space
2001.
Yeah, 2001. It was because he was told and programmed. You have to help the crew. You have to help the crew in any means necessary that you can. Oh, but you can't tell them what the real objective of the mission is. You can't tell them that, oh, we're not actually going to Jupiter. We're trying to study the monolith. And then he's like, well, how am I supposed to do both of that? And he ultimately comes to the conclusion, I got to kill the crew because I can take over and I don't got to keep a secret for myself. So I'll just do that.
Sort of
which of course is the big plot hole with the story, because realistically, as soon as they told Hal that, he would have said, I'm sorry, Dr. Floyd, I'm afraid I can't do that.
I think the thing
he would have told him it was a problem, so that's a plot hole.
Yeah. Not only that, but I think like real genuine logic traps and contradictions by AI are best kind of represented by one scene in like one of the seasons of Infinity Train, where the system just stops. It just keeps literally going around arguing with itself, but doesn't actually come to a conclusion until something else disrupts it.
Yeah, but I mean that's the thing with the AIs that we have now. Even early versions of ChatGPT didn't fall for it. You'd give it a logic trap, and it was able to think up on the meta level and resolve it.
There you go.
Yeah,
It wouldn't like cycle itself into and start overheating like a Star Trek android.
yeah. It's like that one episode of Futurama where the cybernetic Santa Claus where due to a programming error determines that everyone on Earth is naughty and he has to kill them, and they try to use that logic against him. It's like listen, RoboClaws, you have to destroy all evil, right? That's why you kill people, but you're killing people, which is evil, so therefore you have to destroy yourself. And then apparently he detonates, but then he comes back, he says, "Ha, I tricked you. Look, unfortunately for you, I was built with paradox absorption protection converters." Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Santa Claus too, was one of the first, ideas for Santa Claus that really brought that topic up. Is that it's like, like what exactly is a good kid? Because we all know that kids are not, sweet little angels all the time. They misbehave from time to time,
Indeed.
Yeah, the imposter Santa is like this little boy picks his nose and wiped it on his sister. Ew, yet he's on the nice list. Why? It's like, well, they're kids, they're gonna misbehave from time to time, as long as they're sorry, and in the grand scheme of things, they're generally sorry for what they did, and we cut them slack. It's like, nope, he's naughty, He takes the radical Christian approach. Once you've sinned, that's it. You're stuck with it. You're not getting rid of that.
God.
Yeah. That's another error with the whole original sin fallacy, especially in Christianity. They're all like, because Adam sinned before God, we are all inherently sinners. And I'm like, well, I thought that's the reason why Jesus died for us, so we were clear of original sin.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how they get you in the petty, like, it only counts if you believe in him, though.
Yeah.
Which, definitely speaks to how, true something is if you get, like, a carrot for believing it and a stick for not.
Yeah. I'm actually working on planning on working on a comic strip that's about it's about vampires and a vampire hunter and all that, and one of them is a vampiric overseer, and he's like way over 2,000 years old, and the way it's balanced out is that it's mentioned that within the universe of this comic, Christianity and Judaism, they're true, but they're corrupted. So a lot of the stuff in the Torah and Bible didn't actually happen, but it was corrupted through humanity. And I know I'm probably going to get some hatred for this, but it's also established that Islam is 100% fabricated. And when one Islamic terrorist gets kidnapped by the vampiric demon and all that, and he's ranting and raving about Allah and all that, he says, "Buddy, I met Allah. I'm that old. If you think an illiterate goat farmer spoke to some demon from some deity in a cave, then I've got a bridge to sell you." Yeah. To be fair, though, that can be easily applied to almost any religion. It's like,
Yeah.
it's like today, like many people have pointed out that if Jesus were around today, like if Christianity didn't exist and Jesus came around today, we wouldn't be viewing him as the Messiah. We'd be thinking it's like, yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you for that. Beep, beep, beep. 911, can I report a crazy person?
It's like, wow. A person who acts like almost exactly like the fucking Jonestown or whatnot.
To be fair, if you read the original Bible, a lot of people thought Jesus was insane too. You know, that's what the Romans thought. They thought he was insane.
That's kind of the psychological projection, or like,
Yeah.
what's poisoning the well, though. It's like, aha, people will point out that this is an insane idea and that you're being led into a cult, but that's what they were programmed to say by the devil, you see.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is we haven't dropped frames in a while. I think we're steady for this last half hour.
Yeah.
Yay.
Speaking of which, HM, earlier I mentioned Jehovah's Witnesses. I actually spoke to him, to an ex Jehovah's Witness. I've been watching YouTube videos. It's one crazy thing Jehovah's Witnesses believe. They don't believe in that God created Earth. They believe that Satan did it. That's the reason why we're all sinners and impure and all that. It's like, but Jehovah is still all knowing and all powerful. Yeah. So why did he let one of his underlings do it and it got screwed up?
Well, you see, Jehovah wanted to look cool.
Yeah. It's kind of like, now granted, I know there's a meta explanation for it, but I was talking to a friend of mine, who's a big Lord of the Rings fan and all that. It's like, so the origin of Sauron and all this evil was the Valar Melkor deliberately sang off key and ruined the song, that created existence because he wanted to stand out. Why didn't they just kick him out and redo the song?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I saw a joke like that one time too, where one of the Valar was like, Eru, should we undo everything and re-sing the song again, this time without Melkor? And Eru was like, oh, what's the worst that could happen? Yeah.
Good.
Yep. Yeah, Lord of the Rings it's got some weird lore.
I mean, that's what makes good fantasy, though.
Yeah, true, yeah. Yeah, and the crazy thing too about Lord of the Rings is that Melkor and later Sauron, they were not inherently evil. It was, they had some sort of flaw, and rather than humbly admit their flaws, they kept trying to prove themselves better, and that became corrupted. Yeah, with Melkor, he became Morgoth because he wanted to create things like Eru, but he lacked the humility to realize that he couldn't really truly create things. And with Sauron, it was his vanity and his obsession with perfection.
Indeed.
Yep. I mean, if I recall correctly, Sauron himself stated that if he was proven wrong and he was shown that he couldn't fix Middle Earth and all that, then he'd say, well, then you know what? I'll destroy it, because he would rather destroy Middle Earth than be proven wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like, every villain backstory, no matter how sympathetic,
Yeah.
requires an error of judgment they refuse to admit to.
Oh yeah, Palpatine in the original Star Wars Expanded Universe is the same way. While he is sadistic and psychopathic and does enjoy torturing and killing people, deep down, he genuinely believes he's right for the galaxy. He thinks that, listen, I'm the Dark Lord of the Sith. I have all these powers. I know what's best for the galaxy more than these mortals do. And if they disagree with me, well, that's on them.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I will make them see my point of view, and like he said to Luke, if they won't turn, then they'll be destroyed, because there's no place in my empire for them. Yep, but Palpatine made the exact same mistake that his old rivals the Jedi made. He was overconfident.
Exactly.
Yep, and he assumed I can't lose this war, because if I were to lose this war, I surely would have seen it with the Force. Yeah, he didn't see it. Yeah.
LMAO.
Yeah.
It's one of those.
Like-
Okay.
I was about to say that's why I get so pissed off whenever I see Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker's original actor, post all that TDS stuff and all that, and he was talking about how Luke would stand up with those people. It's like, no, Luke would have hated Joe Biden,
Literally.
Yeah.
Like,
Especially the original expanded universe Luke. He would have hated, he would have hated Trump, but he also would have hated Biden too. He would have saw them as both for what they were, corrupt politicians who are only in it for themselves.
like, the people don't, like, internalize just how much the Bidens' unwavering support for the fucking Gaza genocide, like, was in getting Orange Man to win.
Yeah.
Like, it's one of those things where in human life. Oh, good.
I was about to say, I think it was more the fact that it's constant deniability that did it, and I think, well, to be fair, I think the Democrats could have beaten Trump if it wasn't for the fact that they put Kamala Harris in charge,
I think that's a factor for sure. Like, the unpopularity of the candidates was a thing, but there was still a lot of fear for Trump, but the energy and capital needed for protests against him was absorbed, I would say rightly, in this case, by, like, all of the movements against, like, what was happening in fucking Gaza from 2023 till, like, well, now and ongoing.
But I mean, at least if they had a proper primary, and gone through the proper procedure of saying, yes, we want Joe to run again. And then after he dropped out, okay, let's have, let's, have a special convention to properly nominate the new one. That would at least have been someone the Democrats could have felt that they could get behind, but they felt they had no choice in either one.
Yeah. I mean, it's because they, they should have gotten rid of him before election year.
I mean, it was pretty clear the guy was, was losing it,
Yeah, like.
But I think that was the idea. Everyone else wanted to run it in the background.
Yeah. But
yeah,
credit card too much.
And people defended, South Park's, TDS, season by saying it's like when people pointed out, it's like, well, why didn't they make fun of Biden? They go, well, there was nothing to make fun about with Biden. It's like, oh yeah, they couldn't make fun of they couldn't make fun of the laptop scandal, the fact that he was showing signs of senility, the fact that he was like mumbling up words and all that. I mean, Freedom Tunes made fun of that. It was called like playing Scrabble with Biden, and he was like making up all these words. It's like, Mr. Biden, that's not a word.
The fun thing is it was actual recordings of Biden.
Yeah.
AI Biden sounds more coherent than the real one.
Yeah.
I had fun with AI Biden.
I mean, I saw a funny parody of Joe Biden one time, and it showed Joe Biden. He was delivering a speech, and he delivers this great grand speech about how we will not be divided and not let America, become divided by hatred and tyranny and all that. And then it ends with one of the Secret Servicemen going, "Mr. President, your speech ended 5 hours ago. You've literally been talking to an empty stage." And Biden goes, "What? You're not my wife. Where am I?"
Is it time for my pudding?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Or
they could have. Yeah. Or granted, I know they did the joke before in an older episode with Rod Stewart, but I can also imagine like the incident, when he went to the Vatican and he allegedly soiled himself. I can imagine, the Pope like that. It's like, and Mr. President, it is such an honor to meet you. Poop. What? Poo pants. Poo pants? Poop my pants. You pooped your pants? Poop my pants. Mr. Secret Serviceman, Joe Biden has apparently pooped his pants again. Mr. President, what did we say about trying to hold in Mr. Dookie?
God.
The really funny thing though wouldn't have been to make Biden the target, but everyone around him who was, was saying, yeah, he's the smartest person I know.
Yeah, he's the smartest and most intelligent president we know. Oh, such wise words, Mr. President. What else do you have to say? What time is it? Is it bedtime for me to take my meds? Yeah.
They have refined this tactic quite a bit for the current guy in charge.
And literally, many people are pointing out the reason why they don't like the newest South Park season. It's not even just the fact. It's not even just the fact that that they're making fun of Trump. It's the fact that what are they saying? Oh, Trump has a small, is a megalomaniac and he has a small wee wee. It's like, dude, that's something SNL comes up with, and you do not want to. And you do not want to be SNL.
I mean, everything, all good things come to an end.
Yeah.
Like, all good shows run out of steam.
Yeah. I've also granted, I don't know how true it is, but I heard that the real reason why South Park never made fun of Joe Biden wasn't because they said, oh, there was nothing to make fun of him for. It was actually because one of their head producers, he's actually a lawyer and he's a close friend of the Biden family. So it really would not surprise me if they tried to make fun of Biden, he would probably come up to them and he'd say, Matt and Trey, you can't do that. I'm good friends with the Bidens. I won't allow it. And people will say, no, they wouldn't. They've never let it happen before. Yes, they have. They've caved into executives before.
Yeah.
And speaking of South Park, though, they predicted what would happen to Rob Reiner.
Lamau.
Yeah, I think Matt Stone and Trey Parker, they wanted to end it, but Paramount and all that, but Comedy Central kept putting them off of it, and then they got bought out by Paramount, and now they have to keep going.
That's
Some people have even theorized that Matt Stone and Trey Parker, they deliberately made the newer seasons targeting towards MAGA for the sole purpose of they'll get bad ratings and they'll finally be canceled. It's basically their way of saying, please, we don't want to do this anymore. Please kill us.
I can buy it. There's
yeah.
The guys behind Smiling Friends canceled their own thing intentionally as well before it got too out of hand.
Oh yeah, I know they did that one time. So many people said, "What? Well, why did you cancel it and all that?" And they literally confessed and said, "Because we're burnt out. We literally don't know how to advance the show anymore. So, we're gonna finish off our final season and that's it. We genuinely don't know what to do with it anymore, and it's better if we just."
Yeah, exactly. Like, why is it preferable to just have season after season after season?
Yeah,
with, floating budgets and declining quality. When you could just when there's demand and people want to do something, just like get enough people together and make a fucking movie or a miniseries or a spin-off.
Yeah,
I mean, it's just crazy how they're spending. Like, they'll spend like $100 million on a season of a TV show and make 8 episodes.
Yeah.
I mean, and I can kind of understand it, with Stranger Things, because the nature of it is, they had all those special effects and the episodes were over an hour long or everything. But I mean, we're talking about shows that aren't anywhere near as effects laden or anything like that. And they're just costing millions and millions per episode.
Because, part of it's like, a lot of fiat corporations just have a bureaucracy made entirely for nepotistic jobs that they can funnel money through and give some adult daycare to otherwise unproductive people or people who are unproductive in their current setup anyways, who are in just not actually do something, just fill a role and eat money and eat the budget. But
and if you get the Star Wars IP and you just slap the name on it, and you can do whatever crap and release it and make some money.
Yep.
Exactly.
I mean, to be fair, George Lucas was kind of doing that near the end of it, but but even then, from what I recall correctly, like so many people are saying, it's like, well, George Lucas, was doing all that selling out as all that. From what I understand, he wasn't really the ones behind that. That was the producers behind it, because he has producers too. They were pushing him to do that.
Yeah.
If anything, I think the reason why Star Wars became the way it was is because, from what I understand, when Disney purchased it, they George Lucas stepped down, as a creative director, and all those producers that were telling him, oh yeah, let's have Star Wars, this Star Wars, that Star Wars, this and that, they were put in charge, and it was basically the exact opposite of the Phantom Menace, where George Lucas was allowed to do whatever he wanted with no one putting him in check. The producers were allowed to do whatever they wanted without someone saying, I don't know, that doesn't really fit in with the Star Wars lore.
Yeah.
George Lucas was best when he was in charge of the basic story, the world building and everything, and then turn the writing and directing over to competent people.
Exactly.
That was when it was best.
Mm.
He's a good dreamer. He's a good world builder. Coming up with the overall story ideas, but leave the screenwriting and directing to people who know what they're doing.
There's people who have brilliant passion projects of a very amazingly crafted out scheme, and then when you read it, the dialogue is like eating nails, and that's not bad, but it's a thing.
Yeah.
And it's honestly something that, like, yeah.
That's another problem I have with copyright, is that it actually hurts the creators, because a lot of times there are people who have generally good ideas and dreamings, but they do genuinely struggle to put it in on paper. And what happens with copyright is that the people that write the stuff to help them get there, they start getting, it's like, well, I did that now, you had no involvement, that was all me, I'm the one who wrote the story and all. It's like, yeah, but you never would have written it if I didn't tell you about it.
Literally.
That's another problem with the Screenwriters Guild. They act like they own, every single story they come across, because it's like, well, I helped write it. It's like, no, you were hired, you were hired to basically say, hey, I need help getting my dream, in physical form. Can you help me, get an acceptable script for it or whatever? But no, they act, it's like, no, I created it, I wrote it,
Yeah.
Or actually, similar things with directors too. There are some pretty infamous cases of directors basically taking credit for stuff like other people did,
Disney has an entire vault of porn because of the amount of smut they've collected from the fucking artists they have under contract to give up all copyrights to everything they make.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, I've seen interviews from ex-Disney employees. People ask them. People ask us, like, just out of curiosity, do the animators and all that, do they draw like inappropriate stuff? And they said all the time, it's the worst kept secret in the animation industry, even in children's media. That we are still people, and when we're bored, we draw like really, really inappropriate stuff.
The thing that people... Oh, go ahead.
A pretty infamous example is Rugrats. That TV show about the talking babies. The writers, when they were bored, they would write really ridiculous stories. They even wrote a story about Tommy walking in on his mom and dad just out of boredom.
God.
Yeah.
The thing that...
Yeah, I mean, it's legendary what a lot of animators have slipped into this and that.
Oh yeah,
and it's like, you got to be on your toes with these people.
Oh yeah, one really famous example. The Disney film The Rescuers. In the original print, it's difficult to see, and you have to freeze frame it. There's actually a poster of a naked woman in there.
There's the infamous, and I think you have to look at the laser disc to do it, but in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, where Jessica Rabbit shows what she's got.
The thing that people who complain about like objectification in media don't understand is that it is simply an enjoyable experience as a artisan
Yeah,
to illustrate certain things as opposed to like other things, and it's like it applies to like any kind of body type that someone likes.
And going back to Jessica Rabbit, I think her being like super duper attractive, that kind of fits in with the joke in the story because it's to subvert expectation because you think it's like, oh, she's gonna be one of those spoiled, attractive rich girls, but no, she's actually a very down to earth woman, and she actually, and she is married to Roger Rabbit because she genuinely loves and cares for him,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and they had set you up to believe that like she was the one behind everything.
Yeah,
and it turns out she wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, to quote, as she said so herself in the movie, I'm not bad, I'm just drawn that way.
Yep.
No, that's such a funny movie. It's like I need to save my honey bunny. What do you see in that guy? He makes me laugh.
Exactly.
Only a tune could think of a crazy idea like the freeway.
Fun fact, that was based on that whole thing. That was based on an actual conspiracy that happened where some car manufacturers bought a public transit bought a company that operated some of the rail trolleys, and the whole point was to shut them down so they could sell more cars.
Well, the truth is they bought it on the cheap because the red cars weren't making money.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
And I mean, they only survived in San Francisco just because of government support. And from what I've heard from people who live in San Francisco, no one takes them except tourists.
Yeah. Same thing.
Exactly.
Same thing with the New York subways. Many people fail to realize the New York subways were built by private companies, but then the government nationalized them in like the 1920s, I think. And the only reason people in New York take the subway is not because it's the greatest thing in the world since sliced bread. It's literally because it's the only option they have. Because it's either take the subway to work, or you get a car and you spend 3 hours stuck in traffic.
Yeah, because the roads are basically made to be unpassable and they can't handle the quantity of traffic that's on them.
Yep. Yeah, that's the reason why a lot of New Yorkers don't own cars. It's not because they're lazy and don't want to know how to drive. It's literally because it's impractical. Because, like I said, if you get a car, where are you going to use it? If you go out in traffic, you're going to be spending a lot of time there. Same thing with some parts of LA too. I hear some parts of LA, it's so bad that some people also don't get cars. They either carpool or they take something else. Literally because if you drive yourself to your destination, it's going to take you 3.5 hours.
Indeed.
I remember seeing seeing a video that was arguing for the case of private roads one time, and they were talking about that, and they interviewed a guy, who at the time he was rated as the person who has to wait the longest, to drive, and like literally that guy, like he works as a graphic designer, and he literally has to get up like 3 hours ahead of time before his work starts, not to get ready for work, but literally to check up traffic, figure out what's going on, figure out, okay, what's the best route and all that. And even then, it still takes him like 2 hours to get to work. And if he had walked, from his home to work without driving or anything, it would have taken him 30 minutes.
Well, that was like when I worked in Charlotte. I'd usually get there, if I was supposed to be there at 8, I'd get there between 6:45 and 7. And of course I had a key to the place and everything so I could get in, but I was often the first one there. But the thing is, if I even waited 15 minutes to leave, I'd be late.
Yep.
Because this was before they put in the Beltway. That was just how quickly Charlotte traffic just turned into a parking lot.
Yep.
Gosh.
Yep, and nobody wants to talk about, but one of the reasons why the roads are so bad is not because of too many cars or overpopulation. It's because they're almost all roads in the United States are operated by the government, and they don't innovate.
Exactly.
Well, and they don't even keep up with the traffic that they have, let alone plan for the future.
Yep.
Can't even make it like work cost wise. Fucking infrastructure can bankrupt smaller localities that would otherwise benefit from being built closer together.
Yep.
Well, that's like right where I am. If you want to get anywhere, you get on 73 to go into Huntersville, go to Birkdale or somewhere like that. But it's still one lane each way, and it's the only artery across the lake. So, all this traffic is just cramming down it. And so they were supposed to be widening it like many, many years ago. I think they pushed it back to like 28 is when they're finally going to start the widening. But then whenever someone wants to build something on this side, well, let's build a movie theater here. Oh, we can't do that. It would create too much traffic. As opposed to what? Every time someone wants to see a movie, we got to cram ourselves down 73 and go to Huntersville.
Oh, yeah. So, yep, zoning laws.
Yeah. Oh, but they are building neighborhoods. And the thing is, they're like putting up like 4 neighborhoods after just getting finished with another one. And so what would happen is a developer would come in and say, we want to build a neighborhood. They're like, okay, do a traffic study. So you do a traffic study to make sure you can handle the cars from the new neighborhood. Then another developer would come in and say, okay, do a traffic study. They do a traffic study, but since the previous one hasn't been built yet, it's all about the traffic situation, not considering that. And so they're building all these neighborhoods, completely underestimating, the traffic that they'll have to generate. And it's like all these people are moving in here when they want to go to a restaurant, they want to go see a movie, they want to go there. Where are they going to go? They're going to cram themselves down 73 and go to Birkdale.
Yeah. Yeah, it's another thing that people, speaking of construction, it's another thing that people often blame on corporations, but it's actually the government, is eminent domain.
Literally, it's
eminent domain is 100% the government. How would a private company be able to do that without the government?
Literally.
Yeah, exactly. It's the one thing that often gets overlooked, because this has happened before, is like when the government, takes money to give it to a private corporation and people protest, the company sees all the protests and they realize it's extremely bad PR. So what do? They contact the government and say, hey, this is getting bad. We don't want to go through with the deal anymore. So what does the government do? Do they return the land back to the people they took it from and offer them compensation so they can rebuild? Nope, they just hang on to the land and just, I don't know, do whatever.
Okay. They do what the federal government does with Nevada land.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally what happened, to the infamous, Little Pink House case. When they took the land, so they could give it to Pfizer to build a new, drug manufacturing facility. Well, it sparked so much protest that Pfizer basically said, yeah, we don't want to follow through with this because it's too much bad PR, so we're going to pull out of the deal. And what did the government do? Did it give the land back to the people they took it from? No, they just, from what I understand, now they turn it into a construction dump site.
I looked the other day. It's still mostly clear. There's like 1 or 2 buildings they've built in one corner, but most of it is still just an empty lot.
Zoning laws are wonderful.
Yep.
It's there's like people have done like an estimation that you could like cut housing costs in half by getting rid of excess zoning laws, I think.
Oh, more than half. I saw one study that was like over 90% of the price of a new lot was basically a zoning tax.
Yep.
Running up on time, so I don't know if I'll be able to finish the point entirely, but it's like there's a lot of casinos here that just get demolished, and the reason why is because obviously for some of them they aren't really sustainable, but instead of like replacing them with a little shitburbia, maybe they could be retrofitted a little bit and made like, you can solve the problem of people having to go and cause traffic to get to a restaurant because there's already restaurants built into the building, and there's already plumbing and electricity and space. You probably have to combine a few rooms into one to create like more sizable apartments, but like, it makes me mad.
Speaking,
That was just something I didn't really understand because I haven't been to Vegas like in 13, 14 years, I think was the last time I was there. But before then,
That's fair.
in between the conventions I would go to and a couple of jobs I had over in Vegas where I go to spend a week or whatever, it's like I'd go there to the strip and it's like all the casinos would be different. All the hotels and everything, like the biggest ones that I had enjoyed, I wasn't a gambler. I've never been a gambler, but I mean, they have, lots of other great stuff there too. Great restaurants and everything else. And, they're nice hotel rooms and everything. And you go there, but it's like, you go there just like 3 years later and half of them have been demolished and rebuilt with a new one. It's like, what is going on?
I mean, that's part of the city's ecology and trying to stay like up to date.
speaking of
Fresh,
sorry.
But no, it's all good. That was the last thing I had to say.
I was about to say, speaking of casinos, it's one TDS, thing that everyone makes fun of Trump for and all that. And I looked it up and it turns out it's not true. Everyone says it's like, did you know that Trump owned a casino and it went bankrupt? Seriously, how bad do you have to be to make a casino go bankrupt? So I looked it up and apparently the way it worked is that, yes, it was a bankrupt casino, but here's the thing. Trump didn't build it or start it. He owned the construction company that manufactured it. And he owned, a stake in the company. And apparently the original owners, they mismanaged it. And Nick was going bankrupt. So he basically bought them out and said, here, I'll try to salvage it. But after a year or so, he realized, yeah, this thing is too far gone. It's not going to work. And basically, yeah, he declared bankruptcy and just let it be because it wasn't working. So yeah, he didn't ruin it. It was one of those things where it was already ruined,
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, and like what you just said, so many people are like, it's like, well, how bad do you have to be at business, to make a casino go bankrupt? And you just said casinos go bankrupt all the time,
Gotta stay fresh.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
if I about the heart attack grill closing down, that shit's old. It's been there for more than 10 years.
Yeah. And from what I understand, the food wasn't even that good. It was mainly for the gimmick.
Yeah, it was literally just the gimmick.
Yeah.
As long as Lotus of Siam is still there, that was good food.
Yeah.
That's like the one constant. Oh, Lotus of Siam is still there.
Yeah. Yeah, like if I recall correctly, like the only casinos that like are still, in there that like for decades old are typically, casinos that have some type of historical value to them, like,
or like a lot of the smaller ones.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, like the local casinos are better, I say as a local.
Yeah. I've actually heard that. I've actually heard that too.
Downtown.
I've actually heard that too. If you want to make money, at the slot machines or all that, they say go to either a smaller local casino or use the slot machines that are in the grocery stores or the diners. Yeah, you won't win a lot of money. At best you might win like $200, but you're almost guaranteed to win something because they actually benefit from you winning.
Yeah. And they have like video poker, which is like lowest house edges in like the city.
That's another reason too, because the house can't rig or manipulate, and there's no manager overlooking you. That when you actually get a genuine winning streak, they say, "Yep, you're cheating. Yep, you're cheating. Here's a free drink. Go away."
Yeah.
Yeah. That's another thing too I've heard about some of those big casinos. Like even if they do kick you out, it's like, well, can I at least take my chips, cash them in before I leave? It's like, nope, just take a free meal and a drink and go. Yeah, it's like if you're gonna kick them out, at least like give them their money,
I thought they had to give you your money. I thought they couldn't just kick you out.
I don't think I haven't okay. My brother was a problem gambler, and he won like ridiculous amounts of money from the casinos at like he hit multiple royal flushes in like the span of a few months, kind of money, and they let him walk out with like several $1,000s. So I don't know how real it is, but it is like the way they get you is just by the way they set up the games themselves to benefit the casinos mathematically. Like if you play a coin flip game with them, if you win, you don't get 50 cents on a dollar, you get 49 cents on a dollar.
Well, just look at the roulette wheel. That's why they have those 2 green slots. Because it's not a 50-50 if you bet on red or black.
Exactly. And it's like, it's not immoral or too much of a scam, because the alternative with like playing 50-50 odds is crackheads. So, you know, if for whatever reason you're interested in gambling, those are your options.
Yeah. I've also heard another trick you should do if you do go to a Main Street casino is play at the machines that are at the front entrance, because those ones are, they give off smaller cash prizes, but they're less rigged, because that's kind of the whole point. The whole point is to entice you.
Strategy of slot machines is letting other people play them.
Yeah.
Getting the jackpot to build up and them to run out of money, and then you swoop in, put in a few dollars, ding, 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 ding.
Yep.
That's the ideal scenario anyway. You really are the reality is that you just become the next guy who loses money, but still.
Yep. Yeah, so that cliche that you hear about the gambler, about the problematic gambler gambling away all his money to lose, only for some random guy to just put a quarter in there and win the jackpot, is somewhat true. Which I guess does make sense. Because by law those machines can't be rigged, so you always lose. They have to let you win. So like, yeah, if you just sit there and watch another guy play it, and eventually he runs out of money, by the time he runs out of money, the statistics of it actually winning are in your favor.
The machines also do like become different the higher their jackpot gets as well, and they denote to the discerning eyes which and to the tempting eye or the temptable eyes which machines are closer to paying out the big one.
Yep.
But oh well, that's
it'd be interesting to go through the source code and just see how they work.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Oh, people have done that. I remember, going back to what you said about card counting, I remember there was a guy, I forgot his name, but he actually wrote a book where he actually won millions from the casino, and the casino was basically like, this guy has to be card counting, he has to be, and they investigated him and they couldn't find any signs of cheating, and finally he confessed and he said, yes, I was counting the cards in my head. He just had a really good photographic memory, and apparently he was really good at mathematics, so
yeah. All right, we're 5 minutes over, but if you got any final thoughts you want to get out.
No, okay. I've said what I've said.
I gotta get going as well.
All right, well, it was good to meet you, H. Hope you can come to more of these.
Yeah, that's what I am gonna try and do. Because I really like this channel.
Thanks.
And I encourage more people to support it as well.
Thank you very much. So thanks, guys, for joining me. Thanks, everyone in the chat. And thank you for watching. Until next time, stay strong and be free.